Hey, guess what's happening on this week's episode of the Beating Diabetes Lifestyle Podcast with your friend and host, Oscar Camejo.
Hey, fellas, guess what we're talking about today? Men's health advice for guys like us over 40. Hey, when we were in our teens, in our 20s and 30s, many of us could get away with eating whatever we wanted and whenever we wanted, and even exercising on occasion. Back in the day, we were trying to get buff and all that stuff when we were younger. But then we crossed over that 40th milestone, that 40th birthday, and things started to change. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Some of us felt as if we were slowing down. We weren't as fast as we used to be. We weren't as mobile as we used to be. Our bodies started aching in all kinds of places. Man, I remember bending down to tie my shoestrings one day and I felt this sharp pain on my right side in my hip. Oh my gosh, I felt like I was paralyzed. You probably know what I'm talking about if that ever happened to you. So we start to reach for things differently because it's all kind of things are going on in our bodies. And guess what? Our waistlines seem to expand overnight. Clothes didn't fit right. Our energy seemed low. We're constantly exhausted. And then we find ourselves taking more and more trips to the pharmacy. That's wild. Hey, I remember when I turned 40, my 40th birthday, that was about 10 years ago, almost 10 years ago. And I felt kind of energetic, but then I also felt like, I done crossed over into that 40 mark and just my whole life just seemed to just change. But something happens when we're like in our 40s. Somewhere along the line, we get busy with our lives, taking care of family, working on our career. And then we start to really focus on everything other than ourselves. We put our health on the back burner. We put our health and well-being to the side so that we can focus on other things. Because guess what? We feel like for some reason, for some guys, like, hey, you know what? I have to grind. I have to do what I need to do to take care of my loved ones and to, do what I have to do. Even if you're single, maybe you've been focused on other things other than your health. You've been focusing on your career, focusing on other things, and your health gets neglected. Trust me, I've been there. But guess what happens over time when you and I neglect our health? We start missing early signs of underlying problems. We run the risk of heart disease and heart attack, run the risk of obesity, run the risk of developing type 2 diabetes, dealing with high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and in some cases, cancer. Health can affect our relationships as well. So, fellas, we have to wise up. We have to look at what we need to do to turn things around. And listen, it doesn't have to be that complicated. I was able to turn things around. I know you can too. So I want you to stick around because there's a lot of value you're going to get out of today's episode. You're going to learn some simple ways to improve your overall health. I'm not just talking about your physical health. I'm dealing with your nutritional health, dealing with your mental health, and your spiritual health as well. Because I want to help guys like you live a focused, fit, and healthy lifestyle so you can feel alive every day. So you're also going to receive some practical recommendations for developing lifelong good habits. And I also want to help you to develop self-motivation, especially when you're tempted to quit. So stick around to hear the rest of today's episode. You don't want to miss it. Welcome to the Beating Diabetes Lifestyle Podcast with me, your host, Oscar Camejo. My goal is to help diabetics make lifestyle changes to reverse type 2 diabetes. Now listen, even if you're not a diabetic, even if you don't have type 2 diabetes, you may not even be pre-diabetic, you can still get value out of tuning in each week to this podcast. I share lifestyle tips and advice on making lifestyle changes to even prevent diseases such as type 2 diabetes. So I thank you for tuning in. When it comes to staying healthy or even being healthy, it goes beyond just being physically fit. and being physically active. It also involves being capable of performing daily tasks. And of course, having the physical ability to reach your goals. It also means having an active social life and having regular socialization to provide emotional fulfillment. For many men, this also means having an active sexual life and healthy sexual life. Let me put that in there. You see, keeping up and improving your mental sharpness is also very important. You want to be able to improve and have good memory and to overcome memory fog and to have critical thinking skills, exercising creativity and being able to have personal expression and having good overall mental health and contentment. You see, all of these are all aspects of maintaining good overall health. So fellas, listen up. Now, here's some tips that I want to give you. I know you've probably heard this time and time again that you need to eat right, you need to exercise, and so forth. When you turn 40, there are some things that we have to keep in mind, that we have to make sure that we keep at the forefront of our thinking. By the way, I previously recorded an episode where I talk about some of the myths surrounding why some men don't take their health serious enough until something bad happens. That's a very good episode. I recommend that you go back and listen to it in its entirety. And I give some practical information to women on how to talk to their guy about making lifestyle changes to affect their health in a positive way. You know, that was one of my most popular and most downloaded episodes. You know, it was around the time of Men's Health Month, which is June of each year here in the US. So I definitely recommend that you go back and listen to that episode because I'm pretty sure you're going to get a lot out of it. So men, listen, here's some tips that I want you to take to heart. We may not be able to go back and recreate the glory days of our athleticism or when we played sports and so forth. But looking forward, we can live a healthier lifestyle if we make up our minds to do so now. One of the things that I really encourage men to do is to stop putting ourselves on the back burner. You know, we care so much about people and other people that we just, it pains me to see how much we just neglect who we are in order to make other people happy. I think we can live a peaceful life and be at peace with helping others, helping our children, helping our spouses, girlfriends, other family members, and so forth. But I don't think it's healthy for us to neglect who we are and neglect our health, our physical, our mental, and spiritual health in order to make other people happy. So let's get into the tips. There are 4 areas I want to give you some advice on and some recommendations. The first one is health checkups. Number 2, nutrition. I'm going to give you some advice around number 3, which is exercise, and sleep, which is number 4. Get a checkup regarding your prostate, your cholesterol, your insulin resistance, and to check for diabetes or the potential for diabetes. Of course, your cancer screenings, your testosterone, because your health checkups will help you to find out where you are in terms of your health and knowing exactly what you need to correct. I mean, how do you know what to correct if you don't go ahead and find out? So fellas, don't be afraid to go to the doctor. Schedule your screenings today. Do what you need to do to find out about your health today. Find out now. You see, when I was first diagnosed with type 2 diabetes back in August 2020, by that time I had already developed type 2 diabetes. It was full blown. And for me, I found out when I was in the hospital. So I don't want that to be the case for you. I have friends who didn't find out that they had type 2 diabetes until they made it to the hospital, until they had to have a leg amputated or even worse. I have a friend that he went to the hospital and never came home. He didn't even know he was diabetic. So unfortunately, that is the case. And I don't want to scare you, but I also don't want your life to be cut short because of not taking your health seriously enough and getting your checkup. So I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but I definitely want you to go and get yourself checked up. Okay. The second area is your nutrition. Now, I'm not going to go in depth when it comes to nutrition, but nutrition is probably the number one area that I would tell people to focus in on, whether you're a man or a woman. But, what we put in our bodies really affects our immunity. It affects our cognition, how we think and our memory. It even affects how we move. Put the wrong thing in your body and you can end up sick. You know what I mean? With temporary sickness or long-term sickness. So when it comes to nutrition, food and drinks, we have to be mindful of our digestion, how our body processes the things that we put in our bodies. And, a lot of us may not realize it, but those high sugary drinks and those cakes and the fried foods, the foods that are high in saturated fat and so forth, they are doing a lot of damage to our bodies and to our gut health. So I definitely recommend that you learn more about your digestion and how does the body process food? What is supposed to happen? So hopefully by you studying and learning more about your gut health and learning more about your digestion, it would help you to make better decisions. I want you to also, when it comes to nutrition, start looking at fuel for what it is. Fuel is not necessarily for comfort, even though a lot of us, we eat comfort food sometimes, but fuel is what food is. So food is your fuel and it is designed to give you energy, simple and plain. But if we put bad fuel in a car, what's going to happen? That car is going to start experiencing challenges later on if you do it over time. Same thing. If you put bad fuel in your body, bad food in your body, eventually our bodies are going to experience the effects of that bad food. I know some people don't like to categorize certain foods as good or bad, but listen, poison is poison. And I don't like to play around with certain things. Why cause our bodies to work overtime when it doesn't have to? So this thing of, hey, just eat whatever you want and enjoy yourself. That's true until you find out that you have an illness that was brought on by a lifestyle of poor food choices over time. So in any case, another area of nutrition is supplements. Vitamins, minerals, your proteins, your amino acids, etc. It's not just, let me just find any vitamin, a multivitamin and call it a day and then call that being healthy. That's not just being healthy. All vitamins are not created equal. All multivitamins aren't good for you. All multivitamins, even though something on the front says, hey, multivitamin, does it really provide you the daily value that you need to sustain and maintain a healthy lifestyle? We have to dig deeper. We have to learn more about minerals, learn more about the value of protein, especially protein synthesis when it comes to muscle. And we're going to talk about muscle in a little bit. And amino acids when you're trying to recover from, doing exercises. Your muscles need protein. Protein are the building blocks of muscles. Now, let me move on to another aspect of nutrition, drinks. When I was going through my transformation, I started learning about sugar and the impact of sugar on my health and the impacts of sugar on weight gain. I was trying to lose weight. So I had to change my habits. I had to change my perception of not only sweet foods, but also sweet drinks. So what I recommend is that you avoid high sugary drinks like the sodas, the sports drinks, the energy drinks, and even loading your coffees and smoothies with a bunch of added sugars and sweeteners and all that other stuff. Another category of drinks is alcohol. I'm not a drinker, never been a drinker. I don't recommend people to drink. I think anything that that could impair your cognition is not healthy over time. And I know some people may disagree. They may say, oh, well, the little wine is not bad. You can do it in moderation. I mean, I suppose, but there have been studies to show that alcohol actually contributes to weight gain. Alcohol can contribute to other diseases and negative effects on the liver. So I just choose to keep my body free of alcohol. You can decide for yourself what works for you. Now, the third area when it comes to tips is exercise. The goal, I would say, for you should be to build strength as a man, to build your stamina, and to become active and to avoid injury. That's what exercise is about. Yes, it's more than just losing weight, because once you lost, let's say 30 pounds, then what? You know what I mean? So exercise is not just about getting on the treadmill and calling it a day. It's not just about getting on the rowing machine. It's not just getting on the bench press and seeing how much you can bench press and building up your arms and building up your chest and all of that and having this certain aesthetic. It goes well beyond that. Exercise is for your total body. I'm talking about, as far as for me, these are the areas that I focus in on and I learned to focus in on and to zero in on because of my overall desire to have strength and stability over time, to live a healthy life, an active lifestyle. So mobility and movement. A lot of guys, we don't move a lot. We don't have good range of motion when it comes to, let's say, just bending down to tie our shoestrings or to pick up something. We pick up things, we use our back, and sometimes we pull our back because we're straining to pick up something and we're not using our legs. And we're reaching for something, let's say in the cabinet, and we're just reaching the wrong way. There's all kind of things that when it comes to exercise, we should focus in on in terms of mobility and movement. So again, I want you to focus on mobility and movement, dealing with your joint health, from your ankles all the way up to your neck. When people ask me about helping them to start their exercise, I always tell people to start from the bottom up, from the mobility in your ankles and feet to your knees, your hips, your arms, your shoulders, and your neck. And that leads into the next area, and that is flexibility. Flexibility is very important. You twist the wrong way, it can lead to injury. And so forth. So flexibility, some people use yoga. Some people do a lot of stretching. I think do whatever works for you that will fit into your lifestyle and that's sustainable and that's doable. Another thing is stability. There's an older gentleman. He's probably in his 60s or 70s. His name is Ray. Whenever I go to the gym, he's always working on this biso ball where it's on one side is flat and the other side is basically round, and he's stepping on it and he's working on his stability, his balance, because as an older gentleman, he doesn't want to be prone to falling. He wants to maintain good balance. So that's another thing. Working on your walking and your stability and standing on one foot. Being able to do a squat and hold a squat, even working on squatting with one leg. And there's so many different exercises that I can spend hours on talking about that. But again, another area of exercise is stability. Okay, let's move on. Another area is strength and muscle building. Now, when I say strength and muscle building, that does not mean trying to be like Arnold Schwarzenegger or Hugh Jackman when he was a Wolverine and so forth. Because I tried that. I tried to look like the Wolverine and I had gotten big, but I wasn't even focused on nutrition and good flexibility and stability and movement, none of that stuff. I just wanted to look big. I just wanted to be quote unquote ripped. But when it comes to strength and muscle building, you have to understand that your muscles over time it becomes more and more difficult, they say, to build muscle as you age. But that does not mean that you can't build muscle. Again, me, I'm not trying to be a bodybuilder. I am not trying to be jacked, as they say. My goal is to be strong. When I walk, I want to walk strong. When I lift, I want to lift strong. So I do work on my legs a lot. I work on the strength in my hips. I work on the strength in my arms, my shoulders, my hip flexors, you name it. Strength of my muscles is very important. And that's where protein comes in. So whether I'm getting my protein from foods such as animal products, meat or beef, chicken or fish, I'm also getting it from plant sources and so forth. So you want to be strong. You want to build muscles. Again, not trying to be a bodybuilder, but you want to have strong muscles to help stabilize your body. So when you're walking, you feel strong. When you're having to pick up something, you're strong and you're not being prone to injury. Now, endurance and conditioning. It's one thing to be lifting weights in the gym, but I see some people, they get gassed really easily in the gym because they're trying to lift all these heavy weights, but they can't do it for a sustained period of time because they have no endurance. They also don't have conditioning. I see these guys who are like muscle bound, but they walk very, very slow up and down the steps. And I wonder like, okay, how long can they sustain that physique without focusing on their endurance? I see some guys, they can't run on the treadmill. They get winded too easily because they're focusing just on building the arms and legs and the chest, but they're not working on that heart muscle. And, heart disease and heart attacks are a risk that people experience when they don't take care of their heart health, when they don't focus on endurance and when they don't focus on conditioning. I remember I used to work somewhere and going up and down the steps was crazy. Going up one flight of steps seemed like 10. But that's because my heart muscle wasn't exercised and my lung capacity was not where it needed to be. So I'm glad for where I am today, and you can be as well. So I would say focus on your endurance and your conditioning. Another area of exercise is active recovery. Now, what is active recovery? That's when, let's say, you go to the gym or you're working out at home, or even if you go outside, you're not doing any strenuous resistance type training like you would if you're trying to build muscle and so forth. But it's literally you working on your mobility, movement, and flexibility. You're more in recovery mode. You're still moving. You're still working on your hips. You may do a light bike ride. You may do some light walking. You may do some swimming even. You may do some hiking. I love to go hiking. The bottom line is you're recovering. You're allowing your body to recover by still doing some form of active exercise. So a recovery doesn't mean, well, let me just sit on the couch today and not get out of bed. It means still actively doing some form of exercise, but just not as strenuous. I do a lot of HIIT training, which is your high intensity interval training. And so with that, it's a lot of fast movement, a lot of bursts of speed, a lot of plyometrics. But there are times where I'll take, let's say, a Saturday, and instead of doing the HIIT workout or doing the plyometrics and fast movement exercises, I take it easy and I'll go walking. As I mentioned, I'll do some hiking. I may get on the bike or the treadmill and go at a recovery pace, if you will. to still keep my body active. So that was that area of exercise that I wanted you to focus in on. So again, that's mobility and movement, flexibility, stability, strength, endurance and conditioning, and active recovery. Now, sleep is the final area that I wanted to give you some tips on. Our bodies need time to recover. And did you know that when you're asleep, your body goes into recovery and repair mode? It's naturally designed to do that. So when you go to bed and you get an adequate amount of sleep, let's say anywhere between 7 to 8 hours, or let's say 6 to 8 hours of adequate, undisturbed sleep at night, your body is given an opportunity to regenerate. Your cells are able to regenerate. Your body's able to recover from that long days of work or exercise, whatever you've been doing for that day. Your digestion goes into reset mode. It goes into a recovery mode. It goes into now helping your body to absorb the nutrients that you fed it. Remember, the good stuff, the good fuel, and so forth. So sleep is very important. Sleep, or the lack thereof, can affect your mood. It can affect your mental health. So I don't know about you, but there was a time where regardless, I would go to bed at 2 a.m. every morning, even if I didn't have work to do. I just would sit up and watch television or surf the internet. It was just like a regular habit. And then I started noticing I was always exhausted because I still had to get up early in the morning. I got so used to getting only 4 hours of sleep at night. And I thought that was good to get 4 hours of sleep. And I thought I was being productive. No. But unfortunately, later on, it affected my health. Again, it affected my moods. I used to have mood swings. I used to have brain fog. There were all kinds of things. I gained a lot of weight. And my spiritual health was affected. You'll be surprised. Sleep can affect you in more ways than you can imagine. So again, gentlemen, I wanted you to have some tips on what to do to turn your lifestyle around, from your checkups to your nutrition, your exercise, and of course, your sleep. And back to sleep, I know it may be difficult. You're traveling a lot in some cases, or you're working on these projects. But guys, you have to prioritize sleep. Me, I make it a point to go to sleep no later than 11 p.m. during the week. That's just a priority of mine. There's some days where I may go beyond that if I'm working on something, but that's not my habit anymore. And I try to reorganize my day to ensure that I'm in bed by 11 p.m. So that means my shutting down time starts around 10 o'clock. I don't care what's going on. I make it a point to start shutting down, doing what I need to do to get ready for bed, do my reading, starting at that time so that by 11 p.m., my head hits the pillow. So these are my recommendations. These are my tips. So I know that it may be a challenge for a lot of you guys to make this switch, but it's very important. You may want to turn your life around and you're finding it very, very difficult, but I don't want you to give up. I don't want you to cave in. I don't want you to quit, but I do want you to prioritize your health, gentlemen. And I'll say this. I've heard it said that whatever you give your attention to the most is what you're going to desire. If you don't focus on and pay attention to and give your attention to your health, you're not going to desire it. You're not going to desire to eat right. You're not going to desire to exercise. You're not going to desire to sleep well. And you're definitely not going to desire to go get your checkups. So turn your attention to your health, gentlemen. It's very important. I don't want to scare you, but why leave this earth early? Why deal with certain chronic illnesses if you don't have to? Why deal with certain things that's going to affect your mental health, your physical health, and your spiritual health? You see, I am a man of faith. I do believe that I was given this body by God, and I have a responsibility to take care of my health. And by me trusting God for guidance, for wisdom, to know what to put in my body and what to do with my body, it's really helped me to turn my life around. I lost over 80 something pounds doing the things that I share with you today. It didn't happen overnight. It took some time. So in any case, folks, I really appreciate you tuning in. And if you haven't already, I want you to subscribe to this podcast. Share this podcast with people that you know, other men that you know, some of your brothers in arms. Go ahead and let them know about this podcast, the Beating Diabetes Lifestyle Podcast. So, fellas, thank you so much for tuning in. And as always, stay focused, keep moving, never go back, leap forward, bounce back because you can, my friend. And above all else, trust God. I believe in you. You got this. Be sure to visit the website at www.beatingdiabetieslifestyle.com for access to free resources and other information that will help you along your journey. If you would like to submit a question or a comment about the show or to learn more about the Beating Diabetes Lifestyle, you can always email me at hello@beatingdiabetieslifestyle.com. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to this podcast.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to the Beating Diabetes Lifestyle Podcast with Oscar Camejo. We hope you enjoyed this episode. As a reminder, this podcast is intended for motivational and educational purposes only. It is not a substitute for professional care by a physician or other healthcare professional or qualified fitness instructor. This podcast is provided on the understanding that it does not constitute medical or professional advice or services. If you're looking for help on your journey, seek a qualified medical practitioner. It's important that you utilize someone who is a trained, licensed healthcare professional who can help you on your journey toward good health.